And the Indiana Fever have pulled off the upset, the 6th seed, beating Vegas 89-73 to take Game 1.
The Fever shocked the world by stealing Game 1. How did a team missing 6 players flip the entire series script with 1 win? And what did Caitlin Clark say to her teammates post-game that's got people turning heads? Stick around, because this wasn't just an upset. It was a statement. If you're fired up for the Fever, comment "fired up" and let us know how proud you are of the team. What happens when a team enters the playoffs with 6 players out? No analyst giving them a real chance? Greatest test of belief. A night that was supposed to belong to someone else, and yet somehow turned into their moment.
From the very moment the playoff matchups were announced, the Indiana Fever were treated as an afterthought, an asterisk in a story already penned for the Las Vegas Aces. ESPN panels dissected the series, labeling it short and predictable, a mere bump on the road for the reigning champs. Sportsbooks barely offered odds on an Indiana victory, focusing instead on the margin of Vegas's inevitable win. Headlines didn't talk about victory for the Fever, but about survival, a grim hope they might avoid complete humiliation. The subtext was stark. If Indiana merely showed up, that alone would be considered a success.
Particular matchup, Aces Fever, Game 1. We're not deciding the whole series right now, just Game 1.
Should we do it together?
I think we should do it together,
Okay.
because my spidey sense are telling me they might be the same. 3, 2, 1.
Aces.
They're not going to lose after she just won MVP.
Yeah, period.
There's no, yeah,
No way.
okay, I see
No
what
way.
From the start, the series was framed as a mismatch. ESPN panels labeled it short and predictable. Sportsbooks had odds so lopsided, it was easier to bet on how many points Las Vegas would win by than whether Indiana could win at all. Even the language around the pregame showed it. Headlines talked about survival, not victory. The Aces were expected to roll on their way to another finals, and the subtext was clear. If Indiana wanted to avoid humiliation, that alone would count as success.
Indiana Fever had no business winning a playoff series this year, had no business advancing to the semifinals for the first time in a decade, and yet here they are, eliminating the Atlanta Dream in Atlanta without Caitlin Clark, without Sophie Cunningham, without Sid Colson, without Erin McDonald, without Chloe Bibby. The hospital squad is on the bench, and yet the Indiana Fever are into the semifinals of the WNBA playoffs.
But the dismissals weren't just based on talent. They were cemented by a brutal injury report. Caitlin Clark, the phenom, sidelined. Sophie Cunningham out. Sydney Colson, Chloe Bibby, Erin McDonald, Dearest Dantas, 6 key names vanished from the roster. The Fever didn't just look like underdogs. They were a hospital squad, a collection of resilient souls held together by willpower and little else. They were called lucky to even be there, their season by all accounts already over. Yet, in the silent locker room, a different narrative was brewing, one that would soon explode onto the national stage. But that wasn't the whole story.
Together with tape. It wasn't just about being underdogs anymore. They were being called lucky to even be standing there, as if their season had already expired.
And then the coaching of Stephanie White. She is working with a 9-woman rotation, and 5 of those players did not even touch the court the last time the Fever played the Dream during the regular season, and 3 of those players weren't even on the team. I cannot say it enough. The Indiana Fever should not be here. They continue to be here. They battle. They're resilient. It's wildly impressive. Caitlin Clark wore the black Air Force Ones again. They had one of those forces lifted in the air like a beacon of hope, and now they'll face the Aces.
Overlooked. They were invisible in their own semifinal debut.
You actually just referenced it twice. It is Indiana. Dropped 2 of the 3 games to them this year, but you haven't seen them since late July. What excites you about that matchup?
That they haven't seen the real Aces yet. They caught us when we were at a bit in turmoil. Not only that, they whooped us one of those stretches. So, you know what? We'll buckle in, hone in where we can, and take care of business.
The stage was meticulously set for a triumph. Championship banners gleamed, the Las Vegas crowd buzzed with celebratory energy. And then came the moment everyone expected. A'ja Wilson, the league's most dominant force, raising her MVP trophy at center court. It was a coronation, a symbol of Vegas's unstoppable reign, with Indiana positioned as mere background noise. The Fever players weren't just overlooked. They were invisible in their own semifinal debut. But while all eyes were fixated on Wilson's glory, a different kind of fire was igniting. Kelsey Mitchell, often respected but rarely spotlighted, decided this night wouldn't be a footnote for Indiana.
Parallels brewing. This wasn't just the start of a playoff series. For Indiana, Game 1 stood as the chance to claim a seat at the table and announce they were here to fight. By the final buzzer, the entire narrative cracked.
Respect everyone, fear no one. Woo! Does in the chat. Dub. That's one. That's big time. That's big time.
It would be her personal masterpiece, a defiant roar in the face of dismissal. Mitchell didn't just play well. She turned the semifinal opener into an absolute clinic. She hit mid-range pull-ups, drilled deep threes, and was flawless from the free throw line, finishing a relentless 34 points on just 23 shots. It wasn't just a big game. It was historic. No Fever player had scored over 30 points in a playoff game since 2012, and no one in WNBA history had ever dropped that many in their very first semifinal appearance. Mitchell's name now sits alongside legends, having shattered their records. This was a player, in her postseason debut, against the champions, under the spotlight of an MVP celebration, carving out her own immortal moment.
First semifinal appearance. Just what's your emotional state right now?
Normal, I think. It's practice. Trying to prepare like anybody else would, like any other day. But keep the main thing. That's all you can do.
Kelsey Mitchell has always been respected as an elite scorer, but she's often mentioned as an afterthought behind bigger names in the WNBA. Very few people were talking about Mitchell as the player who could redefine the matchup. Yet just like she's done for much of her career, she answered in the best way possible, by letting her game speak louder than the expectations around her.
Even Caitlin Clark, sidelined by injury, felt the profound impact, sending out two simple, powerful words across social media. Kelsey, unreal. It was a moment of profound respect, a recognition of the veteran who carried the team when all hope seemed lost. And the real shock of how they did it goes far beyond one player.
Mitchell didn't just score, she scored every way you can imagine. She hit mid-range pull-ups when defenders fought through screens. She drilled deep threes when the Aces left her a split second late. She hit every free throw, finishing a perfect 6 for 6 at the line. From inside, outside, and everywhere in between, she looked untouchable. By the final box score, she had piled up 34 points on 12 for 23 shooting from the field, 4 for 6 from beyond the arc, and that flawless mark at the line. It wasn't only efficient, it was relentless.
That time, keeping the pivot foot alive and going strong side for Wilson.
Mitchell this time finds a lane to the basket. Inside to Turner. Nice look from Mitchell, which follows 5 Eastern time on ESPN. Mitchell. Lot of arc on that and a couple of bounces.
That 34-point explosion wasn't just a big game, it was historic. No Fever player had scored over 30 points in a playoff game since 2012, and no one in WNBA history had ever dropped that many in their very first semifinal appearance. Mitchell's performance now sits alongside legends like Lauren Jackson and Cynthia Cooper, yet it goes one step further because she broke their record. Think about it. In her postseason debut at this level, against the champions, under the spotlight of an MVP celebration, she carved out her name in the record books.
He's done that. 5-point advantage for Indy. Trying to go inside. Terrific defense by Mitchell to deny Lloyd. It's Mitchell, guarded by Evans. Screen from Turner. Kelsey Mitchell knocks down another shot.
No one is accountable for Hall.
Mitchell, come on.
Beyond Mitchell's breathtaking outburst, the Fever unleashed a defensive masterclass that seemed utterly impossible given their opponent. Everyone had expected Las Vegas to dominate the paint, to bully Indiana with their size, strength, and MVP presence. Instead, the Fever flipped the script, making defense and relentless tempo their secret weapons, in the one area nobody thought they could win. The centerpiece of this defensive siege was Aliyah Boston, tasked with the most daunting assignment imaginable, guarding A'ja Wilson, the newly crowned MVP who thrives in the post and attacks without mercy.
Tell your younger self.
Yeah.
How would you explain to her to make sure that you give yourself grace and give you the flowers that you so willingly deserve?
Ooh, I think the best thing I could have done was, I had a list. I had a long list. I wrote down a list of all the times I could have quit, been a pro, playing with the Indiana Fever. I wrote down all the people that wrote me off. I wrote it down on a list. I wrote down all the coaches that didn't want me around. I wrote down all the media outlet that didn't want to talk to me. I think that within itself is like, you gotta tell your younger self not to give up on you. Because it's been a lot of times I could have given up when I know a lot of people that talk to me now weren't talking to me, and I know what it was like when they wasn't. So that part is big for me.
And even those watching from the sideline felt the weight of it. Caitlin Clark, sidelined by injury, had a simple but powerful reaction. Just 2 words sent out across social media. Kelsey unreal. No elaborate speech, no overthinking. Just respect from the sophomore phenom to the seasoned veteran who carried them when it mattered most. It showed how much Mitchell means to this team and how much her teammates recognize it.
Most players shrink from such a matchup. Boston, however, became a disruptor. From the first possession, her focus was not to match Wilson shot for shot, but to make her deeply uncomfortable, pushing her off her sweet spots, contesting every catch, and forcing endless resets.
Lexi Hull had that great steal to seal the win against Atlanta. Great start for Aliyah Boston.
Definitely the best slasher.
Boston and Wilson, 2 former South Carolina players. A'ja can't find the bottom of the net.
5'11". Odyssey Sims and Kelsey Mitchell 5'8".
Boston up, under, and in.
Really having her battle.
A'ja.
So who's going to step up, and how can the Aces find an edge?
Another good cut to the basket, this time by Turner.
The Las Vegas Aces are running out of time because the Indiana Fever making passes with That's right.
Boston. Triple team, kicks it out. Kelsey Mitchell.
Boston still put up numbers, but her rhythm was shattered. Every bucket a grind. Her usual effortless flow replaced by late clock struggles. Boston didn't erase the MVP, but she made her look human, a monumental feat in itself. But the defensive web didn't stop there.
Indiana could tilt the battle.
Double juice efforts in us. So that's got to change this second half.
Coach, you're shooting under 40 from the field, about 7.
Get about it.
All right, thank you very much, Coach Hammond. And let's go over now to Angel Gray. For A'ja. Spins, counters, doesn't get the bounce.
I am just so impressed.
Boston just faked Wilson out of her.
But you could start on the defensive end. I mean, clearly we had no answer for Mitchell. Couldn't even attempt to slow her down a little bit. I thought it was really poor, really poor.
Beyond Boston's heroic stand, Indiana's wings brought an equally intense, smothering defense. Lexi Hull drew the unenviable task of guarding Jackie Young, one of the league's toughest covers. Hull shadowed every cut, fought through every screen, and refused to bite on fakes, denying Young the space she usually thrives on. Young's impact, usually immense, was dramatically muted. And Hull wasn't just a defensive stopper. She also drained crucial three-pointers, proving her effort was contagious. Then there was Odyssey Sims, attacking with a fire that changed the game's entire rhythm. She fearlessly drove straight at Vegas defenders, splitting lanes and drawing fouls, forcing the Aces into uncomfortable situations. Instead of Indiana playing slow and cautious, the pace exploded, leaving Vegas, usually the tempo setters, scrambling to keep up. Sims had them reacting, not controlling. Brianna Turner didn't light up the box score, but her length and presence made the paint a forbidden zone for the Aces. She altered shots, walled off drivers, and made sure Vegas couldn't simply own the interior. By the final buzzer, the numbers were staggering. Indiana outscored Las Vegas 50-38 in the paint, turning what was supposed to be their biggest disadvantage into one of their greatest strengths. This wasn't just resistance. It was a carefully constructed blueprint for dismantling a champion. And behind this improbable strategy was a guiding hand no one expected to outwit the reigning champions.
Lexi Hull had that great steal to seal the win against Atlanta. A great start for Aliyah Boston.
One shot, rebound. Stay high. We're good. Good job, Kels.
Okay, we keep playing great defense. Yeah. Just stay on the ground.
Yep. Switch.
The true unsung hero of this shocking upset wasn't just a player. It was the strategic genius pulling the strings. Head coach Stephanie White, with her hospital squad held together by sheer willpower, orchestrated a masterclass. Facing a team of superstars, she instilled a fierce we-over-me mentality that transformed individual talents into an impenetrable unit. Despite missing a staggering 6 players, White's team played with a cohesion and confidence that belied their underdog status. She recognized the Aces' vulnerabilities and empowered her patched-up roster to exploit them, turning every perceived weakness into an opportunity. It was her calm demeanor and belief in her team that allowed them to dictate pace, control the paint, and frustrate the champions at every turn.
Good anticipation there by Brianna Turner. She's been on a couple WNBA all-defensive teams, and she has really been key for them on that end of the floor in these playoffs.
Sims, yet again.
That's a tough matchup.
Which follows 5 Eastern time on ESPN. Mitchell. Lot of arc on that and a couple in the regular season in Asia. In the entire league. And Sims, they gave her just that space and she took it.
Uses her strength, her athleticism. There were 3 or 4 Seattle players right there, but Jackie Young made the game winner.
Fade away from Natasha Howard.
Post-game, even Aces coach Becky Hammond, known for her sharp strategic mind, admitted what was clear to everyone. Indiana had won the categories that mattered most: pace, defense, and urgency. This wasn't luck, nor a one-off hot shooting night. This was a team establishing its identity, revealing how they could compete, how they could frustrate, and how they could, indeed, win against all odds. But one game is just the beginning, and the road ahead holds an even more terrifying test.
How you feel about the performance, the urgency, and the response you had when they made a couple runs late?
Yeah, I feel good. I mean, our group has seen it all. We wanted to come in and be the aggressor right away to make sure that we were dictating on the defensive end, and we were dictating from a pace standpoint. They're champions for a reason. We knew that they were going to make runs. They made a big one in the third, and we responded with a big one. I'm proud of our team. It's one game, it's a long series, so we got to keep the main thing. But to come in here and to be able to steal this one was big for us. We've got to keep the main thing, and that is us playing to a standard of basketball that we want to have as an Indiana Fever organization and franchise. We've got to keep our layers. The outside, the people in our building, and the people in our locker room. And the thing I'm just so proud of with this group is it doesn't matter who's on the floor. It doesn't matter who's on our roster. They give each other the freedom to be themselves. They empower one another to be themselves and to be the best version of themselves. And every time we've had a change, every time we've brought someone in, every time we've had rotational changes, they're for each other. They live the we over the me. And when you have that, it just gives you opportunities to do really special things.
This was a team establishing how they could compete, how they could frustrate, and how they could win again. Now the question becomes whether the Fever can use that same defensive map in Game 2 and keep the Aces from adjusting to it. One game down, but here's the tough reality. In a best-of-5, history shows 28% of teams who drop Game 1 still come back to win the series. Most important 40 minutes of their season so far. Win again, and they go home up 2-0 with a chance to close it out in front of their own crowd. Lose, and the series resets, all that momentum suddenly gone.
One game down, one historic upset in the books. But here's the brutal reality. In a best-of-5 series, history shows that nearly 30% of teams who drop Game 1 still come back to win the series. The Las Vegas Aces, champions for a reason, know this. Their fans know this. And they are preparing for Game 2 as if their season depends on it, because it just might.
2 minutes to go in the quarter. Hall left open for three, and she hits it. Much needed. Odyssey. Thought about it, but boy, her shooting's on point, so is her run to the ball on the block. Now the shot clock is winding down. Young doing a good job keeping Kelsey Mitchell away from the basket, but the Fever score.
For Indiana, the next 40 minutes will be the most crucial of their season so far. Win again, and they head home up 2-0, with a chance to close out the series in front of their own roaring crowd. Lose, and all that momentum, all that disbelief suddenly evaporates, the series resetting to an even score. Championship teams respond to losses with a vengeance. The Aces have been here before, bouncing back from setbacks with rapid adjustments. That's their terrifying advantage. They can learn in hours what takes other teams weeks. They will not come out flat again. They will come out swinging. A'ja Wilson especially will be hunting for redemption, determined to break free from the defensive shackles. Jackie Young will seek to shake off Lexi Hall's smothering defense, looking for early offense before the Fever can set their defensive traps.
This is where the idea of a championship moment comes into play. When you're tested after success, do you fold or rise up again? If Indiana finds a way to grab Game 2, they don't just hold momentum. They turn themselves from upset artists into real contenders for the finals. This wasn't just a playoff win. It was Indiana reclaiming its belief and proving that "we over me" isn't just a slogan. It's their identity on the biggest stage. One fearless night after a decade of waiting showed exactly what.
Great. Driving, taking the shot. Stopped by
Pace, defense, and urgency. That acknowledgement told the entire story. This was not luck or a one-off hot shooting night.
Coach Becky Hammond has seen what worked for Indiana, and you can bet her team will walk in with an entirely different game plan. The Fever now face their toughest question. Can they handle being the team in control? Winning as the underdog is one story. Following it up with another win when the opponent is throwing everything at you, that's the harder test. Can Kelsey Mitchell find that same shooting rhythm when the defense comes with traps and doubles? Can Aliyah Boston keep Wilson uncomfortable for a second straight game? Or will the MVP finally break loose? These are not small challenges. This is where the idea of a championship moment truly comes into play. When tested after success, do you fold or do you rise again?